Some lights are left on for the living. This one was waiting for the lost. Staff Sergeant Malcolm Reed stands in the middle of Hollow Creek, Montana, while snow moves through the abandoned village like pale smoke. Every house is dark. Every porch is empty. Every window has gone blind beneath a thin skin of ice. Yet at the far end of the road, beyond a leaning church steeple and a row of trucks buried to their door handles, one small house still holds a light. It glows behind a second-floor window, warm and yellow, trembling softly against the storm. Malcolm watches it without moving. At 38, he still carries the steady posture of a United States Marine, broad-shouldered beneath a snow-dusted field jacket, his dark skin touched by the amber reflection of the distant window. The wind pulls at the edges of his hood. Ice gathers along his close-cropped hair. He has spent years learning how to read danger in movement, sound, and silence. Tonight, the silence troubles him most. No chimney smoke rises above the house. No tire tracks cut across the road. No footprints disturb the snow leading to the front steps. Still, the light remains. Beside him stands Frost, a white German Shepherd K9 whose coat nearly disappears against the frozen street. Only his amber eyes and black nose give him shape in the dark. A torn harness circles his chest. A small red mitten is tied to one strap, stiff with ice and faded at the fingertips. Frost does not bark. He stares at the house as if he has been there before, as if he has crossed this dead village more than once and knows exactly what waits beyond that glowing window. Corporal Ethan Cole raises his radio, but the device answers with a wash of static. "Signal's gone again," he says. His voice sounds too loud between the empty buildings. Hospital corpsman Claire Morgan turns slowly, studying the sagging roofs and snow-filled yards. "No heat signatures," she says. "Not from here." Malcolm keeps his eyes on the window. For half a second, the curtain moves. Not from the wind. The glass is closed. A shadow passes behind it, narrow and quick, then vanishes. Ethan sees it too. "You saw that?" Malcolm gives a single nod. Frost steps forward. His paws make almost no sound in the powder. 10 feet, then 20. He stops beneath an old street lamp that has not worked in years and looks back at Malcolm. Waiting. The red mitten shifts against his harness. Malcolm feels something tighten behind his ribs. There is no command in the dog's posture, only certainty. The kind of certainty men sometimes lose when they have survived too many wrong decisions. "We check the house," Malcolm says. Ethan glances toward the ridge above the village, where snow clouds gather over the black pines. "Command told us not to stay past 1800. Then we don't stay." Malcolm starts walking. Frost turns and leads them down the road. The village seems to listen as they pass. A porch swing moves once without wind. Somewhere, a loose gutter knocks gently against wood. From inside an abandoned grocery store comes the faint ticking of a clock that should have stopped days ago. Malcolm notices a child's sled half buried beside a mailbox. One runner points toward the lit house. Frost never hesitates. At the front gate, he slips through a gap in the fence and climbs the steps. The house is small, painted blue beneath years of weather, with a brass number 7 hanging crooked beside the door. A layer of snow covers the porch except for one narrow path shaped by repeated paw prints. Frost prints. They lead to the door, turn away, and return again. Malcolm crouches, touching the nearest impression with 2 gloved fingers. The edges are old beneath fresh snow. The dog has come here before, maybe many times. Frost places one paw on the lowest step and looks toward the second-floor window. The light flickers. Once. Twice. Malcolm rises. Claire whispers, "Someone's up there." A soft shape appears behind the curtain. Small. Motionless. Watching them. Malcolm moves to the door, his hand resting near the cold brass knob. "United States Marines," he calls. "We're here to help." No answer comes. Frost presses close to his leg. Malcolm turns the knob. Locked. Ethan circles toward the side of the porch, searching for another entrance. Claire peers through the front glass, but Frost clouds the inside. Then, without warning, the yellow light upstairs goes out. Darkness drops over the house so completely that Malcolm can hear Frost breathing. The wind dies. The gutter stops knocking. Even the storm seems to hold still. Malcolm leans closer to the door. At first, there is nothing. Then a sound rises from somewhere beneath the floorboards. Not a cry, not quite a voice, just the faintest whisper, thin with cold and hope. He came back. Frost lifts his head, and from the darkness inside the house, something taps 3 times beneath Malcolm's boots. 6 hours earlier, Hollow Creek is still hidden beyond the northern ridge, and Staff Sergeant Malcolm Reed has no reason to believe the day will become anything more than a cold search through empty buildings. Dawn has barely reached the mountains when the Marine transport stops beside a county emergency station 12 miles from the village. Snow presses against the windshield in dry, whispering waves. The sky is the color of old steel. Malcolm steps down first, his boots sinking 3 inches into fresh powder, and the wind immediately finds the narrow space between his collar and neck. He does not react. At 38, he has learned that discomfort becomes smaller when no one gives it a name. Corporal Ethan Cole follows with the communications equipment, while hospital corpsman Claire Morgan checks the medical packs secured inside the vehicle. Their assignment sounds simple when Captain Daniel Brooks delivers it over the radio. Confirm that Hollow Creek has been fully evacuated. Mark any unsafe structures. Report before the second storm reaches the valley. Do not remain after 1800 hours. Malcolm studies the paper map spread across the hood. The village sits inside a narrow bowl of mountains where radio signals weaken and snow gathers faster than forecasts predict. The county sheriff believes every resident left 2 days earlier, but 3 names remain unconfirmed. Samuel Hayes, Nora Whitaker, and Lily Parker. Could be paperwork, Ethan says, tightening the strap on his radio. Malcolm looks toward the white ridge. Paperwork does not get cold. Claire glances at him, but says nothing. She knows that tone. Most people hear discipline in Malcolm's voice. Those who serve beside him hear the older thing beneath it. A promise he has never spoken aloud. 1 year earlier, during a flood rescue in Western Virginia, Malcolm followed an order to withdraw from a collapsing neighborhood. The water had already reached the windows. The final house showed no movement, no light, and no answer. He left because command told him the structure was empty. The next morning, rescuers found an elderly man alive in the attic, too weak to call out. He survived, but Malcolm never forgot the narrow handprint left on the dusty glass. Since then, every silent building has felt like a question. The team moves north in a tracked utility vehicle, climbing through pine forest and frozen switchbacks. For nearly an hour, the world contains only engine noise, drifting snow, and the dark trunks of trees passing like watchmen. At 9:40 in the morning, the vehicle reaches a fallen pine that blocks the road. Beyond it, the trail narrows to less than 6 feet along a steep slope. Malcolm shuts off the engine. The sudden quiet feels enormous. We walk from here, he says. They unload their packs and begin on foot. The air smells of pine sap, cold stone, and distant wood smoke that none of them can locate. After half a mile, Claire notices tracks crossing the trail. For paws. Large. Fresh. Ethan crouches beside them. Wolf. No, Malcolm says. Dog. The prints disappear into a stand of snow-covered fir trees. For a moment, nothing moves. Then 2 amber eyes open between the branches. A German shepherd steps into view. His coat is almost entirely white, thick with frost along the shoulders and chest. He is lean, but not starving. Alert, but not afraid. A torn working harness circles his body, and tied to the left strap is a child's red mitten. The dog stops 20 feet away and looks directly at Malcolm. Claire lowers herself slowly. Easy boy. The shepherd does not approach her. His attention remains fixed on Malcolm, as though the others are only part of the weather. Malcolm removes one glove and holds out his hand. Come on. The dog takes 3 silent steps, stops, then turns toward the mountains. He walks a short distance and looks back. Ethan exhales through his nose. That looks like an invitation. The radio on his shoulder crackles. Captain Brooks asks for their position. Malcolm reports the blocked road and the animal. Do not follow it off route, Brooks says. Continue to the eastern checkpoint. Malcolm looks at the red mitten. It is small enough for a child no older than 10. One fingertip has been repaired with blue thread. The shepherd returns, lowers his head, and gently pulls the mitten free from the harness. He carries it to Malcolm and places it on the snow between his boots. Then he steps back. No bark. No whine. Only waiting. Malcolm bends and picks it up. The wool is stiff with ice, but inside the cuff he feels something unexpected. Warmth. Faint. Almost gone, but real. He looks toward the path disappearing between the trees. Somewhere beyond that white silence, someone has sent a dog into the storm with the only message they could spare. Malcolm closes his hand around the mitten. Eastern checkpoint can wait, he says. Frost turns before anyone names him, moving toward the hidden valley with the certainty of a creature who has already made this journey and has no intention of returning alone. The white German shepherd moves through the trees with a pace that is neither hurried nor uncertain, and Malcolm Reed understands almost at once that the dog is not wandering. He is following a route. The animal slips between snow-heavy firs, crosses a shallow ravine, and pauses beside a granite outcrop until the Marines catch up. Then he continues. Each time Malcolm falls more than 30 feet behind, the dog stops and looks back, amber eyes steady beneath a dusting of frost. He never begs them to follow. He simply believes they will. Ethan Cole walks several paces behind Malcolm, one hand holding his radio close to his chest as it searches for a signal. Captain Brooks is not going to enjoy this report, he says. Malcolm keeps his gaze on the dog. Then make it accurate. Claire Morgan carries the red mitten inside a waterproof pouch near the top of her medical pack. She had examined it before they started moving again, turning the small piece of wool. Beneath the pale morning light, there was no blood, no name, and no label from a store. Only the blue thread stitched across one fingertip and a faint smell of wood smoke trapped deep in the fabric. The warmth Malcolm felt is gone now, leaving him uncertain whether it was real or only the heat from his own hand. Still, he remembers it. Some details refuse to become ordinary. The trail climbs for nearly 1 mile, rising above the blocked road and cutting along a ridge where the wind moves harder. Snow lashes their jackets and erases their footprints almost as soon as they make them. Frost remains visible only because the dark leather of his harness breaks the white shape of his body. Malcolm begins calling him Frost without explaining why. The dog responds the first time. His ears turn. His pace slows. You think that is his name? Claire asks. I think he knows we are speaking to him. At the top of the ridge, Frost stops so suddenly that Malcolm raises a closed fist, signaling the others to halt. The shepherd stands with his nose lifted. His chest rises once, slowly. The wind carries a distant sound through the valley, so faint that it might be the groan of a tree bending beneath snow. Frost listens. Then he steps toward the edge of the slope. Below them, Hollow Creek appears through a break in the storm. The village lies less than 2 miles away, gathered inside the valley like something forgotten beneath a white sheet. A narrow road curves past a church, a schoolhouse, and rows of small homes. No vehicles move. No smoke rises. The only color comes from a red water tower and a flag hanging stiff beside the county building. Ethan studies the scene through binoculars. I do not see anyone. That does not mean no one is there, Malcolm says. The words leave his mouth before he can stop them. For one brief moment, he sees a different house in a different storm. Mud-colored floodwater against attic windows. A handprint on dusty glass. He closes the memory like a door, but not before Claire notices the change in his face. She says nothing. Frost starts down the ridge. The descent is steeper, and the snow reaches Malcolm's knees in places. The dog chooses patches, where the ground is firmer, avoiding hidden drops and buried branches as if he has memorized every safe step. Halfway down, he vanishes behind a fallen cedar. Malcolm follows and finds him standing beside a small wooden marker almost covered by snow. A brass plate is fixed to its face. Hollow Creek School Nature Trail. Frost lowers his nose to the base of the sign. Beneath the snow is a cluster of older paw prints. They lead uphill toward the place where the Marines first saw him, then turned back toward the village. There is another set beneath them, and another. Malcolm brushes snow aside with his glove, revealing layer after layer of the same tracks. Frost has crossed this ridge many times. Ethan kneels beside him. He keeps leaving the village and coming back. Claire looks toward Hollow Creek, looking for help. Frost lifts his head at the word. The expression in his eyes is not relief. Not yet. He trots forward again, faster now that the village is in sight. They reach the first house shortly after noon. Its front door hangs open, and a curtain breathes through a broken screen. A newspaper lies on the porch beneath 6 inches of snow. Across the street, a pickup truck sits at an angle with the driver's door unlocked and the keys still in the ignition. The evacuation was not orderly. It happened quickly. Frost does not approach either building. He keeps to the center of the road, passing an abandoned bicycle, a mailbox bent beneath the weight of ice, and a child's plastic wagon turned on its side. Malcolm sees no human footprints newer than the storm, but Frost's tracks are everywhere. Up one porch, across another yard, around the school, back to the road. He has searched each place, or perhaps checked them. At the edge of the village square, the dog stops beside an empty metal bowl sheltered beneath the awning of a small grocery store. A thin layer of water rests inside it. The surface has begun to freeze around the edges, but the center remains liquid. Claire touches it with one finger. Someone filled this recently. Malcolm looks at the deserted windows surrounding them. Frost lowers his head and drinks once, then turns away before his thirst is satisfied. Whatever waits ahead matters more. He leads them past the church and toward the far end of Hollow Creek, where the houses grow smaller and the road disappears beneath deeper snow. Malcolm follows the line of Frost's gaze. Through the gray afternoon, beyond the last row of dark roofs, something glows behind the trees. Warm, yellow, impossible to mistake. A single light is burning in a second-floor window, and Frost is already moving toward it. The light remains visible for only a few seconds at a time as the storm shifts between the houses, appearing and disappearing behind curtains of snow. Frost follows it without hesitation. Malcolm Reed walks close behind him, while Ethan Cole and Claire Morgan spread out just enough to watch the silent yards on either side of the road. The deeper they move into Hollow Creek, the more the village begins to feel unfinished, as though everyone had stepped away in the middle of an ordinary afternoon and expected to return before supper. A porch holds 3 pairs of boots arranged beneath a bench. Snow has filled them to the ankles. A grocery bag rests against the steps of another house, its paper sides collapsed beneath the cold, with 2 cans of soup still visible inside. Through a kitchen window, Malcolm sees a table set for 4 plates, cups, a small vase holding brown stems where flowers once stood. Nothing appears broken. Nothing suggests panic. Yet no one is there. Frost pauses at the intersection beside the schoolhouse. The building is 1 story, built from dark red brick, with a row of narrow windows facing the road. A hand-painted sign above the entrance reads Hollow Creek Elementary School. One of the front doors stands open by less than an inch. The wind pushes it inward, then lets it settle back with a soft wooden knock. Frost turns toward it. For the first time since entering the village, he leaves the road. Malcolm follows him up the steps. Inside, the air smells of chalk, old paper, and the faint sweetness of children's soap. Their boots leave dark prints across the tile floor. Colorful drawings still hang along the hallway. Mountains under blue skies. Families holding hands. Dogs with ears too large for their heads. Malcolm slows beside one picture made with white crayon on blue construction paper. It shows a pale dog standing beside a small girl in a red coat. Above them, written in careful, uneven letters, are the words "My friend Frost." Claire notices it over his shoulder. So that is his name. Frost stands beneath the drawing and looks toward the classroom at the end of the hall. The door is open. Inside, tiny chairs have been pushed beneath low tables, but one red mitten lies alone on the teacher's desk. Claire removes the matching mitten from her medical pack and places it beside the first. The blue stitching crosses the same fingertip. "Lily Parker," she says quietly. A name card taped to the desk reads Miss Nora Whitaker. Beneath it rests an attendance sheet dated 2 days earlier. Every student has been marked present except Lily. Malcolm studies the page. Why would her mitten be here if she was absent? Ethan walks to the window and looks across the playground. Maybe she arrived after attendance. Frost circles the desk once, then moves to a coat hook near the door. A red child's coat hangs there. In one pocket, Malcolm finds a folded piece of paper. It is not a note. It is a drawing of a blue house with a yellow window, a white dog, and 6 small figures standing underneath the ground. Claire studies the lines. Children draw strange things. Malcolm looks toward the glowing house at the far end of the village. Sometimes they draw what they cannot explain. Frost noses the paper, then turns back toward the hall. He does not linger. Whatever he came to show them is not inside the school. Outside, the wind has strengthened, carrying dry snow across the playground in pale ribbons. They pass a small church where the front doors have been secured with rope. Beside it, an evacuation notice is fixed beneath a glass case. The date is correct. The instructions are clear. All residents were ordered to gather at the county building before sunrise 2 days earlier. Malcolm crosses the street to the county office. The main door is unlocked. Inside, folding chairs face a front desk covered in forms, blankets, and empty paper cups. On the wall, a handwritten list contains 37 names. Each has a check mark except 3. Samuel Hayes, Nora Whitaker, Lily Parker. Ethan points to the bottom of the page. The same names from the briefing. Claire opens a logbook beside it. The final entry is written in hurried blue ink. Road blocked at the Western Pass. Samuel taking remaining children to storm shelter. Nora assisting. Lily with them. Waiting for county transport. No later entry follows. Malcolm looks up. Remaining children. The report said everyone else was evacuated. Ethan says. The report was wrong. Frost gives a low breath from the doorway. Not a growl. A warning. Malcolm joins him outside and notices another detail beneath the awning. A row of shallow paw prints travels from the county building toward the blue house. Mixed among them are older human tracks, nearly erased by 2 days of snowfall. Small tracks. Several pairs. They end halfway down the road where the snow has drifted too deep to read. Frost begins walking again. The light ahead grows brighter as the sky darkens, its yellow glow trembling through ice along the second-floor glass. Near the final yard, Malcolm spots a wooden generator shed behind the house. A thin metal pipe releases a weak thread of exhaust. Someone has kept the power running. Someone expects the window to be seen. Frost slips through a gap in the fence and climbs onto the porch. Snow covers every board except a narrow path worn by his paws. He has come to this door again and again. Malcolm reaches the gate and sees a brass number 7 hanging beside the entrance. Then the curtain upstairs moves. A small shadow crosses the light. Frost places one paw on the lowest step, lifts his face toward the window, and waits for Malcolm to understand. Malcolm reaches the porch just as the wind falls away, leaving the house wrapped in a silence so complete that the soft hum of the generator can be heard behind the walls. Frost stands beside him, motionless except for the SL. The whisper is so faint that Malcolm cannot tell whether he truly heard it or only wanted to. Frost scratches the floor 3 times, then holds perfectly still. His ears remain lifted. His body points toward the pantry wall. Malcolm removes one glove and presses his palm against the wood. The surface is cold near the floor, but a thin current of warmer air reaches him through a seam behind the lowest shelf. There is space on the other side, he says. Ethan pulls the canned goods away while Claire searches the kitchen for a latch, hinge, or hidden panel. They find nothing. The wall is solid pine, old and dry, with no handle and no visible door. Frost noses the same narrow crack again. Frost, Claire calls softly. The dog does not look at her. His attention never leaves the darkness beyond the boards. Malcolm taps the wall with his knuckles. One section answers with a hollow sound. He moves 6 inches to the right. Solid. 6 inches left. Hollow again. Ethan takes a compact tool from his pack and carefully removes the bottom shelf. Behind it, they find a round metal vent no wider than a dinner plate. Dust covers the grate, but the screws are bright, as though someone has opened it recently. Malcolm loosens them and lifts the grate away. A narrow shaft extends into darkness. Warm air rises through it, carrying the smell of soil, old blankets, and something sweet, perhaps apple juice. Claire lowers a small light into the opening. The beam reaches only a few feet before the shaft turns downward. Too narrow for a person, Ethan says. Frost places his nose inside the opening and releases a low breath. From far below comes a soft sound. Malcolm leans closer. Nothing. Then the radio in Ethan's hand suddenly clears. Captain Brooks speaks through a burst of static, asking for their status and location. Ethan answers, explaining the light, the house, and the possible voice beneath the floor. There is a long pause. Thermal readings? Brooks asks. Claire checks the handheld scanner again, aiming it across the kitchen floor and the pantry wall. The screen shows patches of weak warmth from the generator pipe, but no clear human shapes. No confirmed signatures, she says. Brooks responds at once. The second storm has changed direction. Snowfall is increasing along the western ridge. The access route may close within the hour. The order is simple. Leave the house. Return to the utility vehicle. Report the property for a county rescue team with excavation equipment. Malcolm looks at the open vent. "Sir, we heard someone." "You heard something," Brooks replies. "The structure may be carrying sound from the generator. You do not have a confirmed survivor, and you do not have time to search an unknown underground space." Malcolm feels the old memory rise again. A different command. A different house. No movement. No answer. Withdraw before conditions worsen. He can almost see the handprint on the attic window, pale against the dust. Ethan watches him, waiting. Claire does not speak. Frost remains before the vent, his white coat touched by the yellow beam of Malcolm's flashlight. "Give us 5 minutes," Malcolm says. Brooks is silent for a moment. 3 minutes. Then you move. The radio slips back into static. They search quickly. Ethan checks the hallway, the living room, and the stairs for another entrance. Claire examines the kitchen floor and finds old square nails holding the boards in place. Malcolm opens every cabinet, moves the small table, and follows the generator pipe toward the back of the house. It passes through the wall and disappears beneath the foundation. There is no door, no stairwell, no hatch. The house offers only silence. Frost circles the pantry once, then returns to the vent. Malcolm taps the metal edge. "Can you hear me?" No reply comes. He calls again, louder. "My name is Malcolm Reed. We are here to help." The shaft returns only the faint hum of machinery. 1 minute passes. Then 2. Ethan comes back into the kitchen, snow clinging to his shoulders. No exterior entrance. The foundation is buried on the north side. Claire looks at the scanner. Still nothing. The radio crackles. Brooks tells them to leave. Malcolm closes his eyes for one breath. He does not want instinct to become recklessness. He does not want fear from an old mistake to make a new one. Frost turns from the vent and looks at him. The dog's eyes are calm, not pleading, certain. Malcolm reaches for the red mitten inside Claire's pack and holds it near the opening. "Lily," he calls. "Frost brought us your mitten." For several seconds, nothing changes. Then the generator coughs behind the house. The lights dim. The radio melody slows into one long, tired note. Ethan glances toward the window. Fuel is gone. The engine stops. Darkness settles through the house, deep and sudden. In that silence, Frost lowers himself to the floor and places one ear against the wood. He scratches 3 times. A pause follows. Then, from somewhere far beneath them, 3 taps answer. Frost scratches 3 more. The reply comes again, clearer now. 3 taps. Claire kneels beside him, her face changing as she counts the rhythm. That is not a pipe. Malcolm stands and reaches for his tools. Outside, the storm begins closing over Hollow Creek, but inside the dark house, someone has finally answered. The answer from beneath the floor changes everything. Malcolm Reed drops to one knee beside Frost and presses his bare palm against the boards. 3 taps return through the wood, slow but deliberate. Claire Morgan places 2 fingers against the seam near the pantry wall and closes her eyes, feeling for movement in the air. "There is a chamber below us," she says. "Not directly below the kitchen. Farther north." Ethan Cole sweeps his flashlight across the baseboards. Without the generator, the house has become colder and strangely honest. Every loose nail creaks. Every breath shows in the beam. The radio on his shoulder breaks through the silence. Captain Daniel Brooks repeats the order to withdraw. The western trail is closing. You have less than 40 minutes before the ridge becomes impassable. Malcolm looks at the white shepherd lying with one ear against the floor. "We have confirmed survivors. You have confirmed a sound." A sound answered a signal. Static fills the room. Then Brooks speaks more quietly. "Staff Sergeant, I need your team back on the ridge." Malcolm knows the weight behind those words. Brooks is not careless. He is trying to protect 3 Marines from a storm that can erase a road in minutes. Orders exist because good intentions do not stop mountains from moving. Malcolm has followed them his entire adult life. He has trusted maps, clocks, and voices coming through radios from miles away. Yet the person beneath this house does not have a radio. They have only 3 taps and a dog who refused to give up. "We are finding the entrance," Malcolm says. "That is my decision." Brooks does not answer immediately. "Understood," he finally says. "Keep the channel open." The signal fades. Ethan studies Malcolm for 1 second, then removes his gloves. "Tell me where to start." They work from the vent. Claire holds a strip of tissue near the opening and watches it bend toward the pantry, pulled by a faint draft. She moves it along the wall until the paper lifts near a tall cabinet in the adjoining dining room. Ethan and Malcolm slide the cabinet aside. Behind it is faded wallpaper patterned with pine branches. One section has been repaired more recently than the rest. Frost arrives before they finish moving the cabinet. He presses his nose to the patched wall and breathes once. Then he sits. Malcolm cuts carefully along the edge of the wallpaper. Beneath it lies a narrow wooden panel secured by 2 recessed bolts. No handle, no marking, only a small metal plate stamped with the words Storm Vent Access. Ethan removes the bolts, and the panel opens inward with a tired sigh. A passage appears, less than 3 feet wide, and descending sharply beneath the house. Cold air flows from the top. Warmer air rises from below. Malcolm shines his light inside. The passage is framed with old timber and reinforced by sections of steel. Electrical cable runs along one side, ending where the generator lost power. A metal rail follows the steps into darkness. Claire checks an old building diagram folded inside a utility box beside the opening. This was designed as an emergency ventilation route, she says. The main shelter entrance must be somewhere behind the house. Ethan looks toward the windows, where snow now strikes the glass in hard white waves. The north foundation is buried under at least 12 feet. The hidden stairway is their only path. Frost steps toward it. Malcolm blocks him gently with one arm. Not yet. The dog looks up at him, patient but unwilling to retreat. Claire secures a medical pouch across her chest. Ethan tests the support beam and listens to the wood. The passage appears stable, but the lower section bends beyond their lights. Malcolm taps the rail 3 times with the handle of his tool. The sound travels downward. After several seconds, 3 taps answer. Then another pattern follows. 2 taps. Pause. 2 more. Claire leans close to the opening. They know we are here. Malcolm speaks into the darkness. This is Staff Sergeant Malcolm Reed. We are coming down. Stay where you are and conserve your strength. A child's voice rises through the passage, fragile but clear enough to reach them. Is Frost with you? The shepherd pushes past Malcolm's arm and stands at the top step. His tail moves once. Malcolm lowers the red mitten into the beam of his flashlight. Yes, he calls. He found us. A sound comes from below that is half laughter and half relief. It lasts only a moment, but it warms the dark more than the vanished generator ever did. Claire takes the first step, testing each board before adding her weight. Malcolm follows, and Ethan remains above to keep the radio near the opening. Frost slips between them, moving carefully down the narrow stairs as if he has traveled them before. 10 feet below the kitchen, the passage turns toward the north. 20 feet farther, they find fresh scrape marks along the wall and clumps of white fur caught on a bent metal edge. Malcolm touches them. Frost did not leave through the buried entrance. He squeezed through this narrow shaft, climbed into the house, crossed the mountain, and came back with help. Ahead, a weak lantern glows around the final bend. A small hand appears against the frame of a half-open steel door. Frost, the child whispers. The dog moves forward, but Malcolm sees something beyond the doorway and stops. 5 faces wait in the dim shelter. Samuel Hayes is not among them. The humming stops when Malcolm Reed calls Samuel Hayes by name. For one breath, the tunnel gives no answer. Then a tired voice rises beyond the fallen insulation. Over here. Frost lowers his body and pushes through the narrow opening. Malcolm follows on his hands and knees, guiding the lantern ahead of him while the rope at his waist slides across the frozen ground. The passage bends sharply to the left and opens into a maintenance chamber no larger than a bedroom. Samuel sits against the concrete wall beside an air intake wheel, one hand resting on the metal handle. He is the older black man from the photograph upstairs, though the cold has drained the warmth from his face. His faded Marine Corps cap lies beside him. A heavy coat is wrapped around his shoulders, and ice has formed along the edges of his gray beard. Frost reaches him and presses close. Samuel closes his eyes as his fingers sink into the white fur. I knew you would bring someone, he whispers. Malcolm kneels beside him while Ethan Cole enters the chamber with the medical pack. Can you stand? Malcolm asks. Samuel looks toward the intake wheel. Not until that vent stays open. The snow keeps forcing it shut. Ethan examines the mechanism. The wheel controls a steel cover somewhere beyond the buried foundation. Samuel has been holding it in place by hand. using his own weight when the gears began slipping. Without the opening, the shelter would lose its clean air. You kept it open for 2 hours? Ethan asks. Samuel gives a small smile. Those children needed every breath more than I did. Malcolm studies the jammed gear. Ice has locked the lower teeth, but the mechanism is still intact. He wedges the folding shovel beneath the wheel while Ethan secures the rope around the handle. Together, they pull until the frozen metal moves 1 inch. Then 2. A low rush of air travels through the pipe, cold and clean. Frost lifts his face into it. Ethan locks the wheel with a steel pin from the repair kit. It will hold, he says. Only then does Samuel allow Malcolm to help him up. The return through the tunnel is slow. Frost moves ahead, stopping at every turn to look back. When they reach the shelter, Lily runs to Samuel and wraps both arms around his waist. He rests one hand on her red coat and the other on Frost's head. No one says that they were afraid. They do not need to. Claire Morgan leads the children toward the hidden stairs while Ethan supports Samuel from behind. Malcolm brings up the rear, counting each person as they climb. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 children. Nora, Samuel, Claire, Ethan, Frost. No one is left below. Upstairs, the blue house has grown colder, but it no longer feels empty. Claire settles the children beneath blankets in the living room. Ethan relights 2 oil lamps and contacts Captain Daniel Brooks from the second-floor window, where the radio signal is strongest. The western ridge is already closed, but Brooks has found another route for a rescue vehicle approaching from the south. It will take several hours. Until then, they remain together. Samuel explains that the generator was never meant to heat the house. Its only purpose was to power the shelter and keep one bulb burning in the upstairs window. A light is a promise, he tells Malcolm. It says somebody is still waiting. Near midnight, the storm begins to weaken. The children sleep close together on the floor, with Frost stretched beside Lily. Her hand rests against his shoulder, rising and falling with every breath. Malcolm stands at the window, watching snow soften the abandoned road. Samuel joins him, moving carefully with a blanket around his shoulders. Why did you follow him, he asks. Malcolm looks at the white shepherd. He brought me a mitten. Samuel waits. Malcolm knows that is not the whole answer. Once, I left a house because every sign told me it was empty. I have heard that silence ever since. Samuel studies him without judgment. Maybe Frost did not choose you because you were certain. Malcolm turns toward him. Maybe he chose you because you still listened. Before dawn, headlights appear through the trees. The rescue vehicle moves slowly into Hollow Creek, followed by 2 county trucks and a snowplow. Lily wakes as the first beam crosses the ceiling. Outside, the Marines carry the children through the deep snow one by one. Samuel is helped into the final vehicle. Frost waits until everyone else is safe before climbing in beside Lily. As Malcolm closes the door, she looks up at him. Why did Frost find you? Malcolm watches the morning light touch the dog's white coat until it seems almost golden. Maybe he knew I was lost too. Months later, Frost becomes Malcolm's search and rescue partner. The red mitten hangs beside the entrance to their training room, repaired at the fingertip with blue thread. Samuel sends them a new photograph from Hollow Creek Elementary School. The village is alive again. Children stand beneath the repaired school sign, and every window behind them shines. Malcolm keeps the photograph near the old mitten, not as proof of a miracle. Some things do not need proof. Sometimes one faithful dog crosses a mountain because a child believes someone will stop. Sometimes one Marine enters the dark because he has learned that silence is not the same as emptiness. And sometimes a single light remains on long enough to guide 2 lost souls home.